All right, so Santee Cooper. Here we go, third stop of the Bassmaster Elite Series. We're coming off of two in Florida, St. Johns River and Harris Chain, both of which I was pretty excited to start the season for. I've had history, I've had good finishes at both in the Elite Series and the Opens in the past, and as many of you know, I had two of the worst finishes of my career in Florida before we came to Santee Cooper here. And a lot of that is, I can contribute to bad decision, bad timing, bad execution. And when you're in this field in the Elite Series, you can't have that because that gets you last. I finished last place at Harris Chain, like 5th or 6th to last at St. Johns River. And so, not having confidence can be really, really difficult to overcome. The only way to get out of a slump in bass fishing is to catch them, especially at this level. You just have to catch them. So, a lot of emotions are rolling through my head as we start preparing for Santee Cooper. And a lot of things I'm thinking about, and what a lot of people don't know is, there wasn't but a few days before we started the trip to Santee Cooper that, I ran into some difficulties here at home. And, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to make the trip to Santee Cooper, just financially, and and it worked out. Support is such a big part of what we do in professional bass fishing, and if it was not for the support that I had, I wouldn't have been there. I was very, very close from having to hang it up, and that is something that I did not want to do. There was a lot of obstacles that I had to come even in the week going into Santee Cooper that I had to overcome before I got there. So a lot on my mind. The support that I have, and you guys know who you are, that helped me get through some of those obstacles was absolutely key. So we're going into Santee Cooper, and I'm going to tell you, one of your biggest enemies in tournament fishing, especially around the country, can be history. I fell victim to that at St. Johns River. I fell victim to that at Harris Chain. And so here we go. 2 years ago, 2020, Santee Cooper, we went there in the fall. That was the year that COVID played a big part in our season and moved. We were supposed to be in Santee Cooper in 2020 in the springtime. It ended up getting moved to the fall, very tough bite. And I had an area in what's called the swamp, which is up north. The river, the river flows into Santee Cooper, and the river actually pulls from Lake Murray way up. And that's where I'm most comfortable. South Louisiana, there's a few areas here in South Louisiana that set up exactly like Santee Cooper, and I'm very comfortable in it. So, going up to Santee Cooper, I had in my mind the history, and I said, there is an area up there around that river that I feel comfortable, and I want to spend my time in that area to try to figure it out. Mistake number one. So here I go. I'm coming off of two tournaments where I'm really relying on history to really, kind of set my game plan up, and I even knew going into that, even first, second, third day of practice, knowing what was coming, I was already starting to regret my decision to kind of putting all my apples into one area. When we got there, they were pulling a lot of water from Lake Murray, so the river was high, it was starting to flood, a lot of mud, so there was a lot of areas in that, up there that were starting to shrink. There was very little clean water. And it was, and the river was not coming up because of rain, it was because they were trying to empty Lake Murray, which was up above it. So, so I spent the majority of my practice up that river and in that area, and I just watched my area shrink. I had a decent practice up there, caught a couple of big ones, but all in all, my practice recap was putting all my eggs in that basket. But I was pretty confident that I actually had 2 to 3 areas going into day one of that tournament, but that shrunk down to 1, and I told myself, hey, I'm gonna grind that area. Hey guys, Santee Cooper practice recap. Here we are, early March. We expected the fishing to be really good, but as most of the country just dealt with, we had a major cold front come through, probably the worst cold front they've had in a few months here. dumped a bunch of rain, high pressure. We've been dealing with those conditions, extremely cold in the mornings in the 20s and 30s, which really it's played its toll here. This place is not real easy to be dead in right now. That could change very quickly. Y'all know this time of the year, full moon coming. It has gradually gotten warmer each day. I don't know if it's going to warm up enough to put a whole bunch of them up spawning. There is some, but you know, practice. You know, I'm getting some bites. It's really hard to see a good one. I have seen a couple of big ones in the last 3 days. But we have today off, Wednesday off. In this practice, my mindset going into it was I really locked myself into one specific area of this place that I feel more comfortable in. It's an area of the place that just reminds me of South Louisiana and back home. So, so that's what I'm gonna do. I've locked myself in there. Now the river, it's a lot of mud, a lot of rain's been coming. We're supposed to get a lot of rain today, so that may make it, you know, kind of shrink some of my areas a little bit. But my number one goal is to put myself around them. You know, I'm gonna put myself in an area that I know big ones are and they live, and I'm gonna settle down in an area and I'm gonna grind. That's just what I do. That's where my confidence level is. And so we'll see what happens. Day number 1 tomorrow here at Santee Cooper. Dream big, and it's time to catch them. Let's go. I'm gonna grind that area until I can get 5, because I know the size of the fish that lives in that place. So, you know, day 1, you know, this is, you know, kind of how I felt after practice of day, you know, going into day 1. So day 1 rolls around, and I'm already starting to second guess myself. I'm already starting to second guess myself as to my game plan and preparation for this event and the amount of time that I spent in one particular area. Again, mistake. I knew the rain. We got several inches of rain that day off that we had the day before the event. Big cold front moved through right before practice. I mean, it was just bitterly cold in the mornings, and then rain on top of that, not just from the river pulling down from Lake Murray, but then the rain started inundating some of that cleaner water in that area as well. So day 1, you know, I go to an area, I actually caught a big one, and I had a really good feeling about one particular spot, the trestle up there, and there's been many tournaments won. There's been thousands of fish caught from that area. But day 1, I had an early boat number, so I had an early check-in, 3:30. So I told myself I was not going to run to the trestle, the first spot on day 1. I had an area. When I got there, a lot of the muddy water had moved in, but a lot of the main areas were still pretty clean. But the water was still unstable. A lot of rain, a lot of fresh water in there. Temperature dropped a little bit on the water temperature side because of the river starting to come in there, the fresh rain that was coming in there. And I don't think there was any fresh fish that were moving in there, but I still told myself, I started in that area. I said, I am going to grind 5 bites out, and if I can get 5 bites, then I think 2 or 3 of them could be the right ones. Well, again, confidence is the worst part. You know, it's the confidence. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, you know, this just doesn't feel right. So I spent the first half of the day, it was noon, and I grind and I grind and I grind and I flipped and I chatterbait and did everything I could to try to catch bass. Some popped out one time first day, caught both of my first 2 keepers of that event there. So about noon rolled around, and I said, okay, I'm gonna run to that spot. I'm gonna run to the trestle. Guys, I caught like a 7-pounder and shook 2 within 3 casts on this one particular part of the trestle, but I knew all that rain that was going to come in was going to play a big factor. I figured that the river would be higher, it would be flowing more muddy water. So noon, I had sitting on 2 fish, 2 small fish. Ran all the way over there, and of course it was completely different. It had come up more current, and it actually pushed the fish back. You know, I had one fish give me an opportunity, missed it. Went around the front side of the bush with some current in it, and you guys can see it was a 6-pounder, and I was black and blue Ike mini flip missile jigs, D-bomb trailer on the back of it, and you can see it just fly out of the water. So I had a 6-pounder. That seemed to kind of save day 1. And so, you know, the night before this tournament, you know, I traveled with John Cruz, Ed Locker, and Brian Schmidt, and we all, you know, we have a great, fantastic, great relationship, and we all kind of try to feed each other information, try to help each other where we can. And I was sitting there having a conversation with John Cruz, and I said, man, I'm just, I'm really kicking myself in the butt for spending all of my time in that one particular area. So I may have to come back and run some new water. And he gave me a waypoint and said, look, I caught a couple of small keepers, one little area. He said, I really feel like, if you need it, if that is complete, your area is completely trash, you can't get bit, just go to it. You can probably grind out a few small keepers. So I did that. So noon, I went to the trestle, and then here I go. I'm running back down lake. Going to this area, I pull in there. Like again, I had a 6-pounder and 2 small keepers. Ended up catching like a 2-pounder. As soon as I went into that area, went to the back of it, and then ended up catching like another 2.5. But as I'm moving through this little area, I saw like 4 or 5 great big fish just cruising. Not on beds, they were just swimming around. And I really think these were fish that had pulled up before that big cold front, and they were still just up there. They were really waiting for the right conditions and waiting for that opportunity to move up and spawn. So I ended up catching 13.5 pounds the first day, and I got back to the house that night, and I was talking with John, and I said, man, I can't thank you enough for giving me that. I said, it filled my limit. And I told him, I said, look, John, I said, there are some big ones in there moving around. And I said, you can have it. I won't go in there in day 2. He said, no. He said, I'm going to go start in there, play around in that area. And I said, well, I'm going to go back up to that river. Mistake number 2. I'm going to try to grind that area out again because we're going to have sunshine, so this fish might eat a little bit. And I said, well, I'll run in there late the next day if I have to.
Good morning, everybody. Here we are, day 2, Bassmaster Elite Series here on Santee Cooper. Got my super marshal, Mr. Rick, first time marshaling. My good luck charm today. Counting on you. Don't let me down. So, day 1 did not go as planned at all. Fish did not eat. I got lucky to catch what I caught. Had a 6-pounder, so that kind of saved my day. These fish here in Santee Cooper in the springtime, they really like sunshine. We had very, very little sunshine yesterday. Today we're gonna have a lot of sunshine. It's gonna get warmer. I'm gonna do a lot of the same things, but kind of in a different order. As you guys saw, I caught that big one. It's on the trestle up there. It's known for big fish, and a lot of them this time of year. And it's a weird setup. It's just a current break deal. We got a crap ton of rain Wednesday before this thing, so a lot of that area up there is blown out, but I still have one little area that's got some better water. I just didn't get many bites in it yesterday, but I have a feeling they're going to eat a little bit better today. So we're going to go put our heads down. It's moving day. This is Friday. I need a big bag. I need a big bag to make some ground up. So here we go. Like I said, clear skies. As you can see, we're getting ready for takeoff. And see that big full moon right there. It's going to happen. There's going to be some giants caught today, especially. Caught him yesterday, but today's going to be better. All right, guys, dream big. See you guys will wait.
So anyway, day 2, ran back up to that river, and I said, I'm going to start on the trestle. The water had to come up more. Current was even stronger. And I told myself, and I spent 30 minutes or so, never felt right, never got a bite. So, I ran back to my area up there. Conditions got a little muddier. The water was a little higher. I had one fish that I'd missed on day 1, and I kind of started on it. I caught it. It was a 3-pounder. Bass 48 wacky worm. So I caught that 3-pounder, and then I didn't spend a whole lot of time in my primary area, and I started expanding on it a little bit. Then I caught another keeper out on a tree, not up on the bank. Then I caught another keeper, had keeper number 3 in the boat. this happened pretty quick, and then I was kind of really slowed down around some of those outer trees, and I lost a big one. I had a fish that it was too close to the boat. I skipped a little wacky worm beside a tree, and she loaded up on, my boat was almost on top of it, and it peeled out of there and it broke my line. My fault, I was way too close to that fish. Pretty upset after that. I fished around, gave it about another hour or so, and I guess about noon or so, I said, I'm going. I'm leaving, I'm going back to that same little area that John had sent me in. And perhaps maybe a couple of those fish were pulled up. So running back, the big story that changed the whole day. I'm running 72 miles an hour down the lake, and I got hit in the head with a seagull. He literally came right over the front of the boat, hit me in the head, and just, it's kind of a funny. I remember running and had that happen and saying, I got to find that on the GoPro. So ended up going back into that area that I'd caught a couple of just small keepers and just say, hey man, let me just go see what I can do. And I had a couple of areas that I did some map studies on the night before then that I kind of had in my head that I wanted to go and hit. So I get back in that area and I go into that same little spot that John had sent me in before, and there was a local boat in it. So I just left and I started running new areas. Didn't get a bite for a while. Finally pulled into something kind of similar. Caught keeper number 4 and caught keeper number 5. I mean, they were pretty close to each other. Kind of expanded on that area. I caught a 3-pounder, and I had actually Clint Davis was right in front of me in one little area and watched him catch a pretty good one. I had a 5 o'clock check-in that day too. So when I said I really want to end the day in that little area, that I saw those big fish moving in, and knowing that John Cruz had started in there, I know there was some local traffic in there, and some wait till later in the day to give those fish a chance to push up, and that ended up being a pretty good decision. I went in there with about an hour and a half left to fish. I go into the little area and I catch a 4-pounder. Okay, now I culled out a little one, so now I'm maybe sitting on 13 pounds or so. And I keep fishing around and I keep fishing around. All of a sudden I catch like a 4.5. This is happening. At least I didn't see any more fish cruising. These fish were looking for a place to lock in. Fished a little bit further, and I had one between 4 and 5 just come over. have, you know, a 4, 4.5, and a 3-pounder. Went a little bit further and I caught like a 3.5. And, you know, so I'm sitting on, you know, 2 4s, a 4, 4.5, a 3, and a 3.5, and then a small one. You know, or yeah, and a small one, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if I just, you know, it wasn't until really just then, you know, I'm sitting on 15 or 16 pounds, and I know that's not enough to make the day 3 cut. I needed a big day, and that's the first time, really, in the first 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes, that I really thought, okay, there might be a chance here. So I started fishing out, and I told my marshal, I said, I got one more spot I want to go hit, you know, around the landing. The wind was blowing, it was getting kind of rough out there, so I was literally had the trolling motor up on about 7, trolling out of that place, and I was just flinging that little missile baits 40 or 48 around. And as I'm passing, I mean, there's not 8 inches of water right here where you're looking, but I loaded up right there by the boat, and I said, man, is that a fish? And I leaned up on it, and sure enough, guys, you can see the footage. I mean, I'm all up in cypress trees, and it was a 6-pounder.
They keep growing. They keep growing.
Last cast was literally a 6-pounder out of there, and here I am sitting now. Even had to ask my marshal, what's Fast Track says? I had to say I have. So it says you have right at 19 pounds. My scale weighs light. I didn't weigh all of them. I said, man, I might actually have a chance to salvage these bad decisions that I've been making. Got back, anyway, caught a couple of fish right here before we weighed in. Nothing to help, but you know, weighed in 20 pounds, 11 ounces.
Today, a better day today. Let's get Derek inside the cut. Looking for 15, 14, 5 fish all alive. 20 pounds. 20 pounds, 11 ounces, and with 34 pounds, 2 ounces. Day 2 might just be the slump buster he's been waiting for. Derek Hugno inside our semifinal Saturday cut right now. Looks like he came just in time.
I'll tell you what, today was a pretty good life lesson. You know, I was sitting there with my marshal about, an hour and a half ago with about 11 pounds in the box. And I told him, I said, man, it's been a really rough go. I said, I've been making bad decisions these last couple of events. Bad execution, bad timing. I just could never get comfortable. And we pulled into a little spot with about an hour and a half left to fish, and I pretty much did all my damage there. And all I could do was hug him. So, you know, the only way to get out of a slump in fishing is to catch them. I just needed to catch them. I didn't care if it was all day, the last hour, whenever it was, I just needed to catch them. So, you know, and my good luck charm, my fiance flew in today just to watch me. Thank goodness I'm not going to be sitting at home tomorrow. Well, hopefully, I don't know if I'm going to make the cut or not, but we're going to be getting married here in about a month or so. So, a lot of good things to come, and I'm blessed for the day for sure.
Hope you get in there. We'll find out at the end of our weigh-in.
Santee Cooper, day 2, in the books. Wow. Can't believe that just happened. Weighed in 2011 today. To jump from 76th into the cut to 42nd place going into day 3. So much happened, and it happened very quickly. Wasted another half a day up that river, and you know, shame on me for putting everything I had into that. So ended up running back, and the rest, I just kind of afternoon, I ran back to an area. And just, you know, 3-pounder here, 3-pounder here, then got into an area that actually John Cruz, you know, gave me a spot. He caught a couple little ones in practice and said, hey, if you need a fish, go in there. And so I did, and went in there yesterday, day 1, and I couldn't thank him enough. I mean, I had caught a couple little keepers yesterday just to kind of save me, because I just couldn't get a bite up there where I was at. And then saw a couple of great big ones swimming around in there. So, you know, told him about it last night, and he said, well, I'm gonna go start in there. I said, yeah, go start in there. And I said, I'll just go in there last part of the day again. So bounced around, caught a 3-pounder, then a 3.5, and then went in back into there where he told me to go, and caught a 4-pounder, then caught another 4.5, then lost a 4-pounder. And then I was literally, guys, I caught a 6-pounder. Literally, had the trolling motor on like 5 or 6, and I was just trolling out of there because we needed to go. So I was literally, I mean, there's no water in there where you guys are watching me catch that fish. No water. I got up to it when I was trolling out, and I was, my goodness, that's a fish, and it was a 6-pounder. So 20 pounds, 11 ounces. I needed this cut, guys, more than you guys know. I have had a bad string of events these last couple from Florida. I needed a day like this. I needed an hour of fishing where I just caught them. Just for my confidence, everything. I needed it. So, guys, I made an adjustment. I was throwing a Senko, and I switched to a Missile Baits 48 because they were so shallow. These fish are in dirt. They're spawning. You know, I wanted something more subtle, slower fall. Went back to the 48. That's what I caught everything on. Green pumpkin, super clear in there. I can't see these fish, but they're in there spawning. So day 3, guys, here we go. Made a cut. Stay tuned. Hopefully we get to go tomorrow. The weather's supposed to be bad. So Santee Cooper, middle of March, springtime. This place has got them. No telling what can happen tomorrow, day 3. So dream big. Stay tuned.
At the end of day number 2. So, you know, I was very fortunate, guys. Very fortunate to have the day that I had been. Very fortunate to have help and friends and support. And, you know, I'm going to get out with the John Cruz. I've just made bad decisions, made some lemonade out of some lemons, and kind of survived that day too. And so then the following day, day 3, Saturday, semifinal Saturday rolls around. Some really bad weather was coming, strong winds. They canceled the day. So we ended up fishing semifinal Saturday on Sunday.
All right, guys, here we are, day 3, semifinal Sunday. Yesterday off, wind blew a lot, never rained, but probably a good call. Wind's gonna blow today, guys. 2 days we've been sitting there. So it's one goal, man, catch them big. You know, if I wanna make a run at this top 10, I've gotta catch them big today. This lake's got them. So I'm gonna run all new water. I'm gonna stay in that little area that I stopped in both evenings. Try not to get hit in the head with a spy seagull again, or maybe that was good luck. So here we go. You know, I made a switch to that Missile Baits 48 yesterday, and I think that did the deal because these fish are so shallow in dirt. It's a lot lighter, more subtle action, fall slower. We'll see if that was the deal today. So let's see if I can get around some fresh big ones, and hey man, see what happens. Let's go.
You know, I was free. You know, I fished free at that point. Going into day 3, I was thinking to myself, I am not going to make that same decision. I'm not running up to that river. I'm going to go back to that area. I'm going to try to expand on it more and then go from there. So that's what I did. It was very, very rough that morning, guys. We had some really strong winds, and as you can see, my brackets that hold my units up front of the boat broke off. I had to get myself into some protected water just to get the units off of there. I really didn't need units up front for this tournament, so kind of put a little damper into the first hour or so of my day 3. back in there to that same little area. We had a day off, so I said, okay, there might be some new fish moving up there, and there was a few. You know, I was very, very methodical. I had to soak that missile baits 48 minutes sometimes, and just to get a bite. Went in there, caught like a 3.5.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
That. I said, okay, right around the corner from it. You know, I was fishing this thing so incredibly slow. I catch another big one, like 5, it was like 5.9 on my scale, it was a 6-pounder.
Oh. Oh my God. Oh.
And I know those fish were spawning, but it was an area that actually hit from one side and then went back around it, hit it from another side, and she ate it. And I was not looking at these fish. So the 3.5 that I caught before was actually on the same tree I caught one on day 2 as well. So then I caught that big one. Fished all the way around the back side of this thing on the same tree that I caught a 4-pounder on day number 2. Skipped that little 48 back in there, picked up, she had it, leaned in. These fish are so incredibly shallow. When I lean up to her, the whole fish would come to the surface and then shake. And when she shook, she could come out of her mouth. It was a 5-pounder, or maybe a little bit bigger. I don't know. So it was pretty early in the morning, and I was sitting on 2, had an opportunity at another one. Started running some new areas again, some areas that I caught a few fish in the day, but you know, the 2 days before I started expanding, and it just wasn't happening. I had another good one I never saw come off on a wacky worm on the exact same tree I'd caught a keeper in on day 2.
Oh man, look at that.
It's amazing how these fish kind of get to the same little areas, and they spawn and they set up on the exact same trees. So, you know, so I told myself I'm going to finish back in that area that I was in on day number 2. So ran around, guys. It was incredibly tough just to get a bite. There was a wave of fish that moved up, but it wasn't a giant wave, at least not in the areas that I was in. Some of these guys were around a lot of newcomer and fresh fish. I just wasn't. So ended up going back in there. I had a fish that I missed twice.
Kidding me.
You know, and I fished all the way around it without another bite, came back to it, ended up catching that fish. give me keeper number 4. Sitting on 4 fish. I've had a couple of opportunities, had a couple more big ones that day, but I just didn't execute well, and that's just something that I need to focus and pay attention to more, especially in these tournaments to come. You know, ran back across the lake. It was pretty rough again. You know, gave myself some time. I really thought around the landing I had a couple of areas that I could really settle down in and probably catch a couple of fish, and it just didn't happen. So, you know, all in all, weighed in 14.5 on day number 3.
Hot dog. 34 pounds and 2 ounces to start the day. 4 fish here today. 14 pounds, 5 ounces gives you 48 pounds and 7 ounces. He moves into 25th place currently.
All right, babe.
3 finish.
Woo!
With a Skeeter Yamaha Pro from Louisiana. And Derek, unfortunately, going to call an end to your tournament, but you got to be happy with this one, man. Day 2, you had a giant bag, and that puts you in this position.
I needed this cut, man. I mean, I lost a couple of big ones today that would have given me the average 20-pound bag like everybody else, but you know, I really need to make this cut. You know, I went to 2 events in Florida making bad decisions, and it took getting hit in the head with a seagull yesterday at 72 miles an hour to kind of...
I forgot about that. You literally got hit in the head by a seagull, and the seagull got hit in the head too by your head.
It did. It's up on my social media channel, and ever since then I just started thinking clearly, because I beat my head. You know, I just beat my head up against the wall for 2-3 quarters of days, way up in that muddy river to get no bites. Muddy river to get no bites, and I'm like, okay, the seagull hit me, so I'm like, I'm not going back down there, over there, and then it worked. So I'm sorry it took that, but I needed to make this cut, man. I just needed to go and catch them. I could have had another good day today, but I lost a couple of big ones. But I'm not around the numbers of fish like what's being weighed in and the guys that are about to weigh in behind me. This place is incredible. This crowd is incredible. Thank you, Santee Cooper. You are the reason why you make our job so incredibly satisfying. Thank you guys for coming out. We'll see you guys next time.
Congrats on a great finish.
Finished 42nd. That's where I was going into day 3. It felt good not to just completely bomb and suck for once this year, but I could not get out of my own way again. I'm very fortunate to have that finish because I made I tried to make the same bad decisions that I did based on history going into this event that I did the first 2 tournaments. And I really think that day 2 has changed my mindset. It got me thinking a little more clearly. And I really want to keep this momentum going into Chickamauga. I have some history at that place as well. And that's the hardest thing that we have to do as fishermen on this level, is to try to forget history and try to fish the time of the year, fish the moment, fish the conditions, and try to forget about how you caught them in the past in history. And that's something that I have to do a better job at. I am not happy with the way the season has started. Santee Cooper, I love that place. I really hope that that's a step in the right direction, because I have to make better decisions moving forward. So, we're going to be leaving here, for Chickamauga here in about a week and a half. We're only home for a little bit. We hit the road again, which I like, because I want to keep momentum going. And I need a tournament to where I make the right decisions when it starts from preparation and mindset all the way through the tournament. It was a good turning point. It was a good day. That day 2, I caught them pretty good. I had an opportunity to catch them a little bit better. But the execution phase, especially during the spawn, is really key, especially when you're not looking at those fish. So it's something that I have to work on and build upon with me moving forward, and to try to salvage the first part of this year moving forward. It's going to start at Chickamauga. That place has got them. There's going to be some big ones caught in that thing, and some big bags. And I hope I'm on the opposite end of that, or the same end of those big bags, because I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, and I really want to right this ship and get this season back in the right direction. Because I don't think anybody is as hungry as I am to hold up one of those blue trophies and to get this season back going the right direction. It's coming. I'm ready for it. So guys, Chickamauga in a couple of weeks. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit like, subscribe. Any questions, put them in the comments. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you guys have. Missile Baits 48, once again, size 2 Gamakatsu stinger hook. St. Croix rods, 7.6, Legend Extreme, medium fast. That is a dream when it comes, especially with that wacky worm. That little setup right there. Sunline, 10-pound Sunline shooter, sniper, I'm sorry, not shooter, sniper, 10-pound sniper with 16-pound braided line. That's just a dream setup. I've won a lot of money in my career on that particular setup. So pays off again. I have a feeling that's going to actually play in Chickamauga as well. So guys, thank you for watching. Any questions? Shoot them in the comments and dream big. And let's hope Chickamauga is the same kind of recap and better. Dream big. Later.